The date is the 12th of October 2014. It's 7 hours and 57 minutes into the 2014 Bathurst 1000, and the last of 161 laps that make up the race. It has been an epic contest that has had everything you can think of happen. Chaz Mostert is readying himself to make a pass on race and championship leader Jamie Whincup. But why has the normally 6-hour event dragged on this long? How has Jamie Whincup, at this stage a 5-time series champion in the best car in the field, been challenged by a young upstart in his second season? And how did a car as damaged as that Falcon is end up in second place, challenging the leader? Well, to answer these questions, we have to trace the journey of some key characters who, through one weekend in October, became heroes and villains. But first, some background. The Bathurst 1000 is the biggest race on the V8 Supercars calendar at 1,000 kilometres in distance, it's in the name. It's held here, at Mount Panorama near the town of Bathurst in country New South Wales. Technically a street circuit, as the track is also a public road, this 6.213 kilometre circuit is one of the toughest in the world. Jamie Whincup and his co-driver Paul Dumbrell are the overwhelming favourites heading into the weekend. Fresh off a win in the last endurance race at Sandown and leading the championship by 300 points, Whincup is well on his way to securing a 6th championship, which would be a record for Supercars. His closest rival is his 888 Race Engineering teammate Craig Lowndes. Second in the championship and partnered with 2013 Bathurst winner Stephen Richards, the oldest partners in the field are still in the best car in pit lane and are in with a very good chance. As for Ford, their factory outfit has been somewhat off the boil this season. Mark Winterbottom, who partnered Richards in last year's win, sits third in the championship, but his teammate Chaz Mostert is hovering in the lower part of the top 10. Mostert is the hottest commodity in supercars though, winning in only his 5th ever race whilst on loan to Dick Johnson Racing in 2013, he was promoted by Ford Performance Racing to the number 6 car. He won a race and the round at Perth, with 2 other podiums in New Zealand, but consistency has escaped him. 3 other manufacturers comprise the 2014 field. Nissan, represented by 4 cars out of Kelly Racing, stands little to no chance. They have recorded 1 win and no other podiums in a year and a half. Their low-powered engine, which, if you remember from the Kelly video, came from this and was a 10-year-old design, was especially unsuited for Bathurst's long straights. Their best finish in the 2013 event was 18th. Mercedes-Benz, the 4th manufacturer, are not even lending factory support to the Erebus team that runs their cars. In fact, their 2013 season ran so poorly, James Rosenberg took his number 47 entry over to Holden under HRT, with key Merc driver Tim Slade joining a separate but similar operation. However, Lee Holdsworth managed a win at Winton in his unsponsored E63 earlier this year. The other main ace for the 3-pointed star is Will Davison, a man who's challenged for championships in Falcons, Commodores and, in the future, Mustangs. Newcomers for 2014, Volvo, are the most likely of the new manufacturers to take a result, with hotshot Kiwi Scott McLaughlin quickly becoming a fan favourite in his S60.
Holy cow. Yeah, I just plucked her in first, gave some jam, fuck yeah.
He teams up with Alex Premer, a former World Endurance champion who was pushed out of a full-time drive this year by Swede Robert Dahlgren. Dahlgren ranks as one of the least successful drivers in recent memory, coming within only 110 points of being outscored by Dumbrell, who only undertook 4 endurance races. Chaz Mostert shocked the field with the fastest time in Practice 1, ahead of James Moffat's and Nissan. A record amount of crashes were recorded across Thursday and Friday practice, but coming into the weekend, FPR had the cars to beat, winning all but one session. Friday qualifying threw up some surprises, with Brad Jones Racing getting all 3 cars in the top 10, including perennial backmarker Dale Wood. After Saturday afternoon's top 10 shootout, Shane van Gisbergen secured pole in his Commodore, with Winterbottom's Ford in second. FPR also managed to get a car run under a sister satellite team into the 10, but Chaz Mostert was excluded from the Friday session for passing under red flags. Even worse for the team, it was David Reynolds, another FPR sister car, who'd crashed and brought the red flag out, deleting his own time in doing so, and automatically putting himself and Mostert to the very rear of the grid. Jamie Whincup also crashed and brought out another red flag. This meant that two race favourites, plus Reynolds, who was no slouch himself, would start 24th, 25th, and dead last 26th. These cars were moved up the grid one place after Warren Luff's bizarre Saturday practice crash, irreparably damaging yet another fancied runner. That means that these two cars here started 23rd and 25th. So how did I get to this position? Let's start with Mostert, and especially the race tape on his entry and why the front left of that thing is a dog's breakfast. His co-driver Paul Morris started in the car and is so off the pace that he ends up only just ahead of McLaughlin after the Volvo was pitted, with the 6 still yet to make a stop. They're the very last to pit, but are pipped to the control line by that Volvo, preventing them from even claiming a lap in the lead. Mostert enters the car, the dude's frugal driving having actually gained a handful of positions through the cycle. Mostert then proceeds to carve through a field of co-drivers. He hands the car to Morris with the pair in 10th place as the race is neutralised, which itself was a major event. The safety car was brought out for a kangaroo on the track, hit by the luckless Coulthard Youlden Brad Jones racing car which had already toured the gravel beforehand. As the cars bunched up under yellow flags at the top of the hill, the third BJR car of Dale Wood slammed, unsighted, into the lead BJR car of Jason Bright. And safe to say, Brad Jones was far from pleased.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a nightmare. Hopefully someone will wake me up sometime soon. Look, honestly though, Fabian I don't think is in such a bad spot. I mean, I don't know what else can go wrong.
Trying to catch the cue, Morris lost the car on the degrading track surface at Griffin's Bend and hit the wall. It's only the third time multiple crashes have happened under yellows in Supercars history, the first being the treacherous 1992 Bathurst race, and the second being the most disastrous live interview in history at Sandown in 2004. The Mostert-Morris entry is pitted under the safety car multiple times to patch it up and drops to last on the track. Then, the Bathurst gods turn their conniving ways from Brad Jones to the Norton Hornets team. Taz Douglas had already been given a tour of the Griffin's Bend wall thanks to Cam Waters. Now, he helplessly understeers into that wall again, so hard he actually gets bogged for a while. As he's doing this, the sister car in that operation is being mended, kind of, with a mystery issue issuing plumes of smoke out the back. The safety car comes out and then Scott Pye pulls a Paul Morris, but harder, another crash under yellow. You see, the track surface had been repaved before the race, but not very well. Changing conditions between the new and old tarmac led to the rapid degradation of the surface, leaving only one very narrow safe line through the 150km/h corner. After a couple of laps under yellow, the race was stopped outright for some makeshift track repair, with the FPR and Nissan teams fuming about the state of the track. The Moffat-Douglas car had to pull some similar running repairs to the 6, only avoiding getting lapped by about 30 seconds. Morris survives some rapid-fire incidents right after the race's resumption, and hands over to Mostert after the second one. Before Mostert gets in the car though, Mark Larkham makes a very interesting prediction.
Mate, the way you drove before in your first stint and the way this race is going, I wouldn't be going for anything else less than a win, mate, because this afternoon anything is possible, believe me.
The kid then goes about doing what he did before, setting the second fastest lap of the race. After Tim Slade's crash, the field compresses again and Mostert pulls the trigger, making two nice moves at the chase. He's up to 9th when Dahlgren does the inevitable. Somehow, some way, the kid finds himself in 4th after the ensuing pit stops, the lowest position he would hold for the rest of the race. He moves past the Coulthard car to bump up to third, and then a massive crash comes at the worst possible time. At this moment, every car is on the very brink of their roughly 25 lap fuel limit. They'll need to conserve to survive, and even that's pushing it. Mostert finds himself ahead of his teammate, but that's a bad thing for him as the race stands. Winterbottom has to double stack and loses time, so the team rolls the dice and brings Winterbottom in again to top up his tank. This ensures that Frosty will make it to the end, but he's lost track position. And that brings us to this battle here. Whincup versus Mostert. Lap 141. 20 laps to go. They don't know it yet, but this battle may have an impact on who wins this race. From here, their paths will diverge, only to meet again at the climax. But how does Whincup get to this position? Well, we really do have to go all the way back to the start to see that. Whincup gets an amazing jump, so much so that it was investigated as a jump start. This was courtesy of great pit lane communications, as the start lights are all but invisible that far back on the grid. That alone gained him 3 spots. By the first time the rolling position ticker appears on screen, lap 5, he's gained 10 places. He keeps chipping away, making moves and risking it all to make up time. It works though, and by the end of lap 13, he's 5th. As Morris comes out of the pit lane, Whincup breaks the lap record for the 2nd time in 2 laps. The top 4 all pit, meaning Whincup has gained 22 places in 1 stint. He hands the car to Paul Dumbrell after 22 of the finest laps you will ever see. He was only one of a handful of full-time drivers starting the race, but it was still a major accomplishment. When Luke Youlden brings the safety car out for the first time, the 1 car is 4th. He would move to 3rd as Whincup is interviewed, suggesting the car may have tail shaft issues. Then PD almost ends their day at Griffin's, but as the Coulthard Youlden car barges into that kangaroo, they jump Jonathan Webb in the pit lane. They dice for 2nd until the 2nd trip into the wall for Douglas. A driver change in the ensuing pit stop shuffles them down the order. Then of course the race is paused. They sit 11th at the red flag, with the crew assessing the tail shaft and performing brake changes. And then, disaster. On the chaotic start, Whincup runs wide at the chase and barges into Todd Kelly as he returns to the track. He keeps his car off the wall, but he has wheel damage. Fearing the worst, the 1 is brought into the garage. They lose a lap repairing damage, which is thankfully more minor than they first thought. They refuel the car and they thank their lucky stars that they do, because Stephen Johnson gives them a present. The safety car for this incident brings them back on the lead lap almost instantly, but they're handed a pit lane penalty for the clash with Kelly. They take it as soon as it's issued, dropping a lap behind 19 cars. Then, Scott Pye gives them a present. This scary incident was a wheel failure likely caused by the whack of the wall at Griffin's, giving the Nissan and FPR teams a very real cause for concern. Whincup does a coal trickle style move straight through the clouds of dust and debris, passing a car in the progress. Ballsy stuff. The safety car makes another appearance. By this time you'd expect the safety car staff to have lost their heads in all of this. Instead, the medical car does.
And all this video game crap allowed Whincup to close up on a field full of part-time co-drivers. Time to bully them.
He passed 6 of them in the first 3 laps after the restart, before handing a bunch of places back after almost becoming another victim of Griffin's. He steadily climbs though, getting past Ingle. 3 more to go. He struggles to make any more gains though, but then Tim Slade gives them a present. Unbelievably, this allows the 1 to pass the leaders as they all take pit stops under the safety car, allowing Whincup to unlap himself. They then pit and rejoin the field on the lead lap, right behind everyone else. Through a mix of great pace, amazing timing and dumb luck,
They've recovered from being a lap down twice in an incredibly short amount of time. Dumbrell gets in the car and all he has to do is just do laps, get to the minimum co-driver threshold of 54 laps, and get back out there. They'd seen the Blanchard car fall heartbreakingly short of that number after a flat tyre suffered on Blanchard's 53rd lap. But it couldn't happen to them, right? It did. The same safety car that allowed Mostert back into the race almost put Whincup and Dumbrell out of it, with the Red Bull man stuck on 50 laps. In a flurry of activity, David Reynolds retires from the lead with an alternator issue, eliminating another key contender. So Dumbrell will just have to wait until the next safety car, yeah? Well, no. On the restart, McLaughlin heartbreakingly does the same thing as his teammate, leaving PD only 2 laps away from freedom, but forcing a fast opponent out of the race. Dumbrell is forced to drive full tilt to keep pace with the series regulars he finds himself surrounded by. He actually makes a couple of nice moves at Griffins and finally gets a chance to exit the car almost 20 laps later after the Ingle-Holdsworth incident. He collapses after an intense day and weekend of racing. Whincup makes a nice pass on Todd Kelly at the chase without hitting him this time, and he's 5th now. Coulthard is the first to blink, having no faith in the ridiculous fuel window everyone's created for themselves. It will be a masterstroke to bring him in, and theoretically he looks a likely race winner until he suffers a flat tyre very soon after, continuing Brad Jones's luckless run today. Another contender gone, but another position for Whincup, and he finds himself here, dueling with Mostert for 3rd. And it's a great little battle that the kid somehow manages to win. And, like I said, from here they go 2 very different ways. Van Gisbergen and Lowndes decide to try and pull margin, either banking on a safety car or doing a super quick splash and dash later on. Mostert follows them while Whincup plays the conservation game. SVG breaks Whincup's lap record twice, and then Mostert does it himself. They've gapped Whincup by 2 seconds, but it's all useless. They'll never break free of Winterbottom or Davison, the only 2 men whose current fuel loads can take them to the end. And then, everything gets thrown out the window.
Now, I'm sure Tim Blanchard is a nice man, but he was an awful driver in Supercars terms.
After some pretty good performances as a co-driver in 2010 and 2011, he subbed in for an injured Todd Kelly at the end of 2012. Decent performances in a decent car took him to a troubled Dick Johnson Racing, where Chaz Mostert destroyed him. Again impressive as a co-driver at Paul Dumbrell's brother's team, he came back at Brad Jones Racing and he sucked. He was beaten convincingly by all his stablemates, and he only secured 3 top 10s. After a while, he stepped back to form his own rather promising team in 2021. But his prime, his biggest impact, was in 2014. As Paul Dumbrell was on the floor, exhausted, his brother's car was about to ruin his race. Blanchard runs wide in the Lucas Dumbrell Motorsports entry, and the troubled run of the 23 ends in a big crash at the cutting. Tim Blanchard had changed the race like he never could before, and never would again. Spanner, meet the works. Chaos breaks out. At this point, the leaders are setting purple sectors as they sprint to the pit lane. If they line up in the safety car queue anywhere near Winterbottom, they're almost assured of victory with fresher tyres, and now with enough fuel to push all the way till the end. Shane Van Gisbergen pits from the lead. He holds a 12-second margin. He has the pace to win. He fuels to the finish. At this point right here, mathematically, his victory is assured. It's Shane Van Gisbergen's victory. He's more than earned it. This is Shane Van Gisbergen's story. And then he stalls. Out of all the times to do it, he does it now. He tries to restart his machine, but his starter motor is burned out. They couldn't get it going again, and so the pole sitter, the man who broke the lap record 3 times that day, the popular and flamboyant star in a privateer team who'd found themselves in an unbeatable position, were beaten. Whincup was the first in line of those who hadn't pitted, so he was now in prime position to... Wait, why is Winterbottom out in front? Well, these two were also rushing to meet the safety car first, as track position was critical to those who weren't pitting. Whincup pushed it too hard and almost ended his race at Hell Corner, with the 5 taking the lead. But allegedly, Whincup had also been slow over the hill, meaning that he might still have come out behind Van Gisbergen if the 97 hadn't stalled, making his error at turn 1 all the more meaningless and idiotic. It certainly wasn't his first error of the day, and unfortunately for him, it wouldn't be his last. Meanwhile, Lowndes almost pulls the same trick as Whincup in the pit entry. Mostert comes in as well for, amazingly, his team's 13th pit stop of the day. Lowndes manages to gap the Ford convincingly. Percat pits and drops himself from podium contender to mid-pack runner. As it stands, Whincup is the only man not to have pitted since the Ingle-Holdsworth incident. He would have been denied a pit stop just now anyway, as Lowndes had track position and a greater need for fuel. And after that error, he wasn't even first. He was, put simply, screwed. It's between Lowndes and the FPR duo for the win. The race restarts. Essentially, the 1,000km enduro is now a 9-lap sprint to the flag. Moffat makes moves in the ruined Nissan, climbing past his own boss to 5th. Lowndes almost bins it at Reed Park, which wasn't even the first trip in the weeds for that car in that spot today. And then the race is defined, as Whincup moves past Winterbottom at Murray's Corner. He gets an average exit compared to the Falcon and has to defend. Then, at Hell Corner, it's Winterbottom who gets the bad run. Lowndes closes in on him faster than he expected and punts him. Mostert slices through and passes them both, while Moffat only just survives. Winterbottom keeps his Ford going, but his chances of victory are destroyed. Right as this is finishing off, Jack Perkins spins his Ford at the cutting. Lowndes receives a drive-through penalty for his actions, which were likely unintentional, but still ruin someone's race. He peels off from 3rd, an almost certain race win evaporating. Mostert was slowed by their shenanigans, so Whincup had a near 2-second lead at this point. David Cauchy, his engineer, calls for him to conserve fuel to roll off the throttle early so he has some fuel left to fight with. It's line ball at this point, but thanks to Lowndes' accident, he could do this if he conserves. Instead, he sets a personal best lap time. Mostert, sensing something, responds with a new lap record. Whincup, sensing Mostert, responds by almost sticking his car in the wall. But the gap is still 2 seconds. Cauchy ups his calls, conserve, lift and coast. They can still make it if he starts now. But he doesn't. Then, Chaz Mostert gives them a present. He has a massive moment at McPhillamy trying to find time. He loses a second. With 4 laps left, Whincup can afford to fuel save, lose almost a second a lap to Mostert, and still have enough fuel left to keep him behind. But he doesn't. Of course, those with long memories know Jamie has a bad history with pitting and refuelling at Bathurst. In 2010, his tank ran dry up the hill in a meaningless way, in a meaningless stint 200 miles from the end of the race. The next year, he would also not listen to his team in a move that ultimately cost him victory. But it's not like bad things come in threes or anything. Cauchy is, and I'm quoting Neil Crompton on this, almost screaming at him to conserve. 3 laps left, 2.5 seconds, another lap under 2 minutes 8. Jamie's not even responding verbally to his team at this point, let alone responding by slowing his pace. Mountain Straight, lap 160. Cauchy announces it's too late. They're not going to make it. Mark Dutton has to pull rank and pull Jamie's head in. He finally responds, but the rot has set in. Right as the Red Bull car passes the screaming fans on the top of the hill, it starts taking fuel from the reserve tank, which is rated at around a lap's worth of fuel. From the top of the hill to the chase, Mostert gains half a second. From the chase to the start of the last lap, he gains a full second. Mostert smells blood now. He may be in a more wounded car, but at least his has got fuel in it. He pushes. He gets close at Griffin's, mirroring the finish of the race the year before. He gets wide at McPhillamy. Mostert lines up the pass. Can he get it done? Will both drivers even make it to the finish line? All that's left to do is let history play out.
Tries to do it at Skyline. There's no space there either. Now he's just got a hold station because it's a one-line groove down through the dipper and on the run towards the elbow. This is off the scale. Off the scale as Whincup does everything he can. He had a 3-second margin. He blocks down the inside because he can. He comes away. Another one. And Mostert goes through on the inside. And Chaz Mostert, who's had 21 V8 Supercar events in 56 previous races, is going to make a very special name in history here. He is the winner of the Supercars Bathurst 1000.
He did it. He did it in a way that could never again be replicated. Start last, watch Whincup zoom to first, hit the wall, lose time to repairs, wait for the track itself to be repaired, fight back, fall back, fight back again, rise to second, pass the champion, who was also a lap down twice, and then win the race. Morris jumps for joy in the winner's circle, crashing into Mostert's arms as Mostert crashes into the bonnet of a car that you might recognise. Amazingly, James Moffat of the embattled Norton Hornets took second place with Taz Douglas. Yep, this Taz Douglas. And this one too, I guess. In a gutless, broken Nissan with the engine from a Sherman tank. They made 11 pit stops, their teammates in the 36 having performed no less than 15. The Norton Hornets pit boom was visited on average every 6 laps. Their tired pit crew celebrate long into the night, and later on they give Moff a special present for his accomplishment. Douglas, meanwhile, would never even finish within 10 positions of this result in any other of his 59 Supercars races. It actually wasn't even the first 1-2 for the 6 and 360 that weekend. Third? That'd be this guy. He managed to gain 6 spots in that last stint against all the odds, all while driving for privateers owned by former Mercedes runner Rosenberg with a 40-year-old European co-driver who'd never been to the mountain before. The team would close out the season well, but close at the end of the season, handing their REC back to Supercars management. It ended Percat's 8-year affiliation with Walkinshaw, but also allowed another legendary moment to happen. The REC itself would see further success, allowing Shane Van Gisbergen to join Triple Eight and win the championship. It would be returned and rebought, this time by the worst team to turn a wheel in Supercars since, well, you know. And funnily enough, Percat's about to join the fold again at Walkinshaw this year, so best of luck to him. Of course, we all know what happened the last time he drove a main Walkinshaw car with a number 2 in the window. Whincup was also outpaced by the brothers Davison in a Mercedes, the first and only time 4 different marques had taken the top 4 positions in any Supercars race. The Merc operation would be wound up within 14 months though, but not without another win. Erebus would come back with Commodores and Dave Reynolds, and they would record a famous win, as well as allowing Craig Lowndes his final Bathurst glory. Whincup rolled across the line in 5th. He'd run out of fuel as he'd approached the chase, less than a kilometre from glory. If he'd done a second's worth of fuel saving per lap, there's every chance he would have saved enough to hold Mostert off and win outright. Dumbrell's mammoth effort was all in vain. Whincup's legendary first stint was now a legacy of wasted potential. And all of this is discounting the other nonsense that no one talks about anymore. The 14 being a flat tyre away from winning even after causing 2 safety cars. The 22 almost causing a pile-up after suffering sensor issues for the 2nd consecutive Bathurst. David Reynolds nearly winning despite starting 24th. The Tander and Luff duo practicing comedy with nothing else to do. Cam Waters leading a race for the first time. A football appearing on the racetrack. Nick Percat costing himself a win with this lose. Jack Perkins being 5th with about 25 to go, but then getting a penalty for a pit crew infringement. Of the top 8 finishers, only 1 started the race inside the top 10. And every car bar 1 had some sort of component failure or accident that affected their day. And craziest of all, a bloke named after an insect managed to finish ahead of 10 past or future Bathurst winners. Mostert, who wasn't even born when Morris competed at his first Bathurst, had tamed the mountain. Admittedly, the next year it got its revenge, but that's another story. He'd get redemption for that incident as well, winning the 2021 edition of the race in dominating circumstances and necessitating a complete rewrite of the end of this particular video. Thank you very much, Chaz. Paul Morris, on the other hand, didn't race at the top level again. He retired after young gun Cam Waters replaced him the next season. This win meant he's the only person to have won the Bathurst 1000 as well as the Bathurst 6 and 12 hour events, winning the 6 hour in 2017 and actually taking the crown for that particular event from his 2014 teammate. As for the unlucky ones, they'd have their moment again at the mountain for better or for worse. Reynolds, so unlucky with his retirement, of course won the 2017 event. Lowndes not only won the year after Reynolds, but also the year after this 2014 race, both times with Stephen Richards. Van Gisbergen, perhaps the unluckiest of all, got his Bathurst crown in 2020, Holden's last factory race. He won it with the man who didn't get to start the 2014 race at all, Garth Tander. Steve Johnson's spin from the lead was his last act in a supercar, but he sealed 2 Touring Car Masters titles on the mountain. Scott Pye, who was ahead of Douglas during their crashes, got 2 podiums in the later 1000s with Tander's teammate that day, Warren Luff. Will Davison, who could have won for Mercedes, would win in 2016, which is a story in itself. He won that day with Van Gisbergen's teammate in 2014, Jonathan Webb. Tim Slade had an up and down run after this, but won hearts for his performance in the 2021 season opener for Blanchard's team, before his day ended very, very unfortunately. Winterbottom again fell short in 2015, behind Lowndes, but he got the last laugh by winning the championship that year. The race also kick-started a Bathurst curse for Whincup. In 2015 he passed the safety car after shaking off calls to refuel, earning a penalty. In 2016 he crossed the line first and won, for a few seconds. A penalty for this crash meant that, again, Will Davison gained a place on the last lap due to a Whincup brain fade and won the race. In 2017, an engine failure put them 39 laps back, even though the points gained that day were crucial to his title win. In 2018, the wheels literally fell off their campaign, and in 2020 he got spooked by a rookie and binned his car only 30 laps in. As for the race's legacy, it remains the longest and perhaps most drama-filled Bathurst 1000 in history. And in the Supercars era, it's the only one to see a successful last lap pass for the lead. It's safe to say that we'll never see its like again, and if this year's finish holds even half the drama of this battle, it too may even become an elite moment. Well, thank you all so much for watching. I promise the next one's going to be a bit shorter than this. It won't be an endurance race. Fucking that was lame. But if you enjoyed the video, chuck it a like.
subscribe to the channel to see more Australian sports content, and I guess I will catch you on the next one.